Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here. Welcome back to the Mixing in a Home Music Studio course. In this video, we're going to talk about parallel processing. So firstly, if you are new to my channel, new to my videos, and you like what you see, click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. So parallel processing. This is a technique that, as the words describe, it's where you process audio in parallel to, say, the dry track. So a couple of examples would be that we'll do some parallel compression. So we will have our track, let's say it's a snare drum, okay? We will have that track unprocessed. You know, I mean, we might process it with some things, but let's just, for the sake of this example, say it's unprocessed. It plays out to our main mix bus, to our speakers, just dry, unaffected, and we send to an effects track, and this is our parallel processing track. And on this track, we say put compression, and we might do very heavy compression. And that then comes down in parallel to the main mix bus, joins together at the main mix bus, is mixed together, so you've got the dry signal and the very affected processed signal joined together to create one coherent snare sound, but it has some advantages. You get all of the peaks, all of the quiet parts of the original, so you get all the power of the original. It's not squashed and compressed or anything like that, so you've still got that. And then you add this squashed, compressed snare to it to add meat to the middle of it, right? Basically fattens it up. That's one concept of parallel processing. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly that. It could be something else. It could be you adding distortion in parallel to the original track. It could be you adding a delay in parallel, a reverb in parallel, right? They all have their sounds and advantages and, you know, techniques basically, but that's the general concept. It's that you are having the same track or instrument or vocal being both dry and processed, and you basically add them together down at the end and play them out to get the sound that you're after. So let's get into Cubase and I'll show you how I do it and, you know, a couple of examples. Okay, so in this mix here, I've got various instruments. We will start with a few on and off here. So let's just start with a kick drum to start with here. So we've got a plain old simple kick drum. Bit of drum bleed, but nothing major. Now to get our parallel processing, we want to first start off by adding an effects track. We're going to do that, and I'm just going to call it effects. Okay, so we've got that. We're going to make sure we turn it on and solo it. Now what we can actually do is on the effects channel, we can put any processing we like on it. So let's pick something at random here. Well, let's just go with our standard here. So we're going to put some reverb on. That's our simple one to start with, okay? This is very common. So reverb delays, generally we'll do that in most mixes here. So I've just got a delay. A reverb. It can be any reverb you like, and that's sitting there ready to go. So if we play this now, doesn't sound any different. That's because I haven't sent any audio to the effects channel. So what we want to do now is go across to our sends on the kick drum track, and we're now going to send it to our effects track, and we're going to turn it on. So I'm sending the entire signal at the moment because I've got it set at 0. And I've also got the effects track at full volume. So in theory now, when I do this and we can pull up our reverb and see if there's a meter. It should be pretty wet with reverb, because I've also got this reverb set to fully wet. So now how much of this reverb or this effects track we apply can be done in a couple of ways. We could obviously do it in the plugin, but I'm not going to do that. Generally, when I set up parallel processing like I've done here, I will generally, or pretty much always, set the plugins to be fully wet, or the mix control fully up. Whatever the control is, I want it to be fully up so that the plugin itself is applying the maximum effect whatsoever. There are some exceptions with something like compression or things like that, but when it comes to reverbs, delays, etc., I usually set them to fully wet or 100% on the mix. So now to control how much of this reverb or this parallel processing is applied, we can do it in two ways. One, we can adjust how much signal is sent. So I will do that now while we're playing it. So if I go all the way down, we're back to basically only our kick drum. And then as I bring it up, I'm bringing more and more of the reverb in. Not because I'm increasing the volume of the reverb, but because I'm increasing the amount of the kick signal I'm sending to the reverb. Hence the send. So in this case here, reverb on a kick, you might go pretty low. Depends on the effect you're going for. So let's put that back to 0. Okay, so the other way to do it is to adjust the fader of the effects channel. So obviously I've turned that down and we get 0. And as I bring that up, more and more reverb is heard. Now in this case here, because I've got the send full, the plugin is receiving the entire signal the whole time. But now we're reducing the level of the effects track itself and blending it in. Okay, so why would you do it one way or the other? And the simple explanation I have for that is depends on what you're sending to it. If you are only sending this kick drum to that effects track, then it doesn't matter which way you do it. You can do it either way, whatever you prefer, they'll both result in the same. But if I was sending another track, say this drum track here, if I was also sending that to that same effects channel so that I'm utilizing multiple things of it, utilizing this effects channel for multiple tracks, then there is a difference, because if I adjust the fader on the effects channel, what happens is it is adjusting the level of reverb on both of these tracks. If I adjust the send, then I have the ability to set the amount of reverb on each of these tracks independently. So let's check that out. Let's see if these two kicks these drums play together. Let's actually pick something else that might work. Actually, okay, these tracks don't go together, but I'm going to pick this bass just so that you can hear the difference. And I'm going to turn it up full. So if I play them in isolation, The kick at the moment with full effects, full send sounds like this. Okay, and the bass sounds like that. And if I put the two together, we might want to adjust that bass a little bit. It's a bit loud. Okay, now I've got both of those sending 100% to the effects channel. Now let's adjust the effects channel. So I'll just straight away take it down to 0. So both of these tracks now will be absolutely clean of reverb because I've turned the entire reverb down. And as I bring it in, I'm slowly applying more reverb to both of those tracks. Okay, now if I set my effects channel back to 0 and I do it with sends, what we can do is, again, like I said, they can be independent. So I, for instance, could make the kick drum clean. Or I could bring it a little bit. And then the bass, I could make that clean. Or bring in a bit. Bring in a fair bit on the bass. So you can see there the advantage of one or the other. As I said, if you've got one instrument into a parallel processing, it doesn't matter which one you do. If I had multiple tracks going to a parallel processing effects channel, then I would lean to adjusting the sends because it gives me greater control. I can adjust the amount of that processing on every individual track separately. Okay, so that's reverb. Okay, so, we could have done that with a delay, which again is a quite common technique. So let's pick a H delay here and I've put it on the bass. So again, I'll put it to 100% wet because I'm controlling it from the sends. So put it on a ping pong so you can hear the delay going there. Put it to 0, it's quite loud. But I can bring it back down. So there you can get a hint of the delay in the stereo, but it's not overpowering your original signal. It's still down the center. Hence the parallel processing here. Okay, so that's there. What's another example we could do? Another example is, especially with a bass guitar like this, we might want to blend in some distortion. So let's find something here. Decapitator, that's a good one. And this one here, I'm going to absolutely punish this bass. So at the moment, I've got it set to full sends, again, fully wet. Okay, so that's the sound we get. We might want to roll off a bit of top end, get rid of that little bit of that low end. Maybe we want to make it a bit brighter. It's quite loud. Okay, so that's what it is full. That is obviously extreme distortion there. But we just want to add a little bit of parallel processing to get some texture into this bass. So take the send all the way down. now how I can blend as much or as little of that distortion in. Now, obviously, I could have applied that decapitator plugin directly to the bus channel here and put the same settings, roughly, brighten it up, and then adjusted it with this mix control. And that, in theory, achieves exactly the same results, or similar. There is a slight difference because this is adjusting the volume. So you could hear there's a volume difference, that sort of thing. But, you know, it should achieve the same thing. Now, two reasons why this doesn't always work. One is not every plugin has a mix control. If they all did, then that would be perfect. Second thing is that using an effects channel, I can obviously share this plugin across multiple tracks. I can't do that if I'm applying it directly onto this. If I wanted to have 5 tracks with this decapitator on it, I would have to put this on 5 tracks individually, which means I'm loading this plugin 5 times, putting extra processing load onto my system here. So that's the advantage of parallel processing, is that we can put them onto multiple tracks with just using one instance of this plugin. So there's lots of things you can obviously do. You know, we could build up an entire plugin suite here for this track, this effects channel. We could put in a delay after it. We could put in a reverb. So, you know, we could just go pretty wild here. So let's just say we put a delay on, and this is all after the distortion here. So we've got a delay. Let's add some reverb. Let's pick a wild sort of spring. Obviously, I haven't adjusted any of the settings on these, but you can apply whatever you like. And you could go extreme and put some, you know, weird effects on here. As I said, you could put things like a phaser. So you've got all of these plugins and effects sitting on this effects channel here. And then you can go across to your individual tracks or multiple tracks and blend in a portion of this entire thing on your mix. So for instance, on the bass here, I've got the effects down to 0. So that's what it sounds like now. Now, remember, I haven't actually played with any of these plugins. So we've got a nice, really weird effect there. So we could go quite low there. It's probably still a bit loud. And blend that in with our bass. So you can imagine that there. So we could do the same thing with our kick drum here. And even have our bass as well. And they'll all blend together in that effects channel to create a really weird effect. And that's how you can use parallel processing in your mix. So there you go, that is parallel processing. Do you use it in your mixes? Let me know. Did I explain it enough? Did you understand it? Do you see how you could possibly use it in your mixes? Let me know in the comments. If you do have any follow-up questions or things you need further explained, please do put it in the comments. I read all the comments and I'll answer as many of the comments and questions as I possibly can, as quickly as I can. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.